Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of SpeakEasy with Eric and Cory. Today we have a big, beautiful update.
Oh, nice.
No, I don't know if I would call it a beautiful update, but since the last time we spoke, I think we were mid discussion about there was some changes occurring. It might change how tax credits work in solar. So at this point, we have the update. We know it's going to happen. So we'll kind of more or less center this episode on the update, what it means, what it doesn't mean, maybe what people should be thinking about. And as usual, just kind of deliver the information without a sales pitch or an agenda. Just here's the facts. So I guess let's go through, what happened. So in the big, beautiful bill, there was a lot of things in there. It wasn't just solar, right? But the objective was clear. It's we want to be able to renew tax cuts. So that was going to cause a multi-trillion-dollar impact to our deficit if they didn't find a way to offset it. And solar, like Medicaid, EV tax credits, all of these became more or less victims of how do we kill programs to be able to fund these tax cuts. So we're not going to spend this show talking about the tax cuts and if we think they were worth it or whatever. That's for another whole another time. But as far as how it impacts solar, now I'll say it like this. As much as this was not really something we were expecting, and it obviously changes the course of our industry and how we think about servicing customers, I will say this. I'm actually happy that there is a pathway here. This isn't just solar is doomed. It's just we adjust. And something we've had to do in this industry time and time again is we're thrown a curveball or two curveballs or a pothole in the road. And we just figure out how to maneuver around it. It's what we do.
Yeah, so I think we're at this point. It's been however long since the bill was passed. We have figured out the lemonade out of the lemons situation. But in our last podcast, I think we discussed in my opinion, the sensible sunset to
it was what would we do or what would we how would you do it,
right? And it was I'm all for getting rid of subsidies, and I think I said that in the last podcast, but that's not it. We are at the minimum thing that could be considered slowly ramping out those
right.
subsidies.
So used to be 10 years. I believe, if I remember you correctly, you said give us 3 years, 3 to 5 years, something like that.
At this point, I would take one.
Right. And the net result isn't, I don't want to go too far into the weeds here and lose people over stuff that's not super important, but in terms of details, but there's essentially two different tax credits, right? There's in the IRS code, and one specifically applies to if you buy solar with cash or loans, and the other one's if you're doing a third-party ownership model or a lease or a PPA. So a customer doesn't own the system on the roof, but they get the benefit of the lower payment. So the update is the cash loan one is over at the end of this year, which is dramatically earlier. It's 10 years, not quite 10 years. Where are we? 2025. We are 7 years ahead of schedule, essentially. So that's a bummer, right? Obviously, you'd think you have 7 years and all of a sudden you have one. So that's going to create a little bit of a sales rush. Everyone's going to want to get in. So we're used to that. This isn't the first one by any means. We had one, that we've talked in this podcast within the last couple of years. But then the other tax credit for the third-party ownership model of owning solar, that is extended through, or I should say reduced down to end of 2027. So there's a runway there, right? But this is a very different, we used to have two options and they were more or less like, which one do you want? And now we're entering a place of one's expiring and one's going to continue on. So we'll discuss in greater detail what that means. But that's the long and short of it, right? There's more details that could be said, but for someone caring about what it means, that's essentially where we're going.
They'll get bored real quick.
Yeah, glaze over. I think we glaze over with each other when we talk about this too much.
Yep.
So I guess, I've got some stuff written down here just so I can, not get lost in the middle of all this. But I would say, let's just start with, does this mean solar is dead, right? Like what does this mean for solar moving forward? And I kind of more or less said it's not, but let's go into greater detail. And I'll just start with the main bulletin point, right? And maybe I should ask you if you would have the same thing. But why is solar not dead, Cory? What's the main reason solar is never dead?
Because utilities are assholes.
It's because the utility company will always exist. They will always raise your prices. They will always find ways to make you upset. As long as you buy power from them, there will always be a need for an alternative. So that will continue to make solar a viable option. Just how you get solar, how much it costs, the rules of engagement change, but it will not defer you from getting solar.
Yeah. Cut me off if I'm like shortcutting your notes here, but I've already seen people run the numbers on no tax credit solar purchases, and it still makes sense
It still
against
pencils.
the utility.
But it's not just about math, right? We know that.
Well, yeah, sure.
Consumer
confidence for sure.
and-
But I don't know. For me, it's a math decision, and it's a little bit of a wager, I guess, because nobody knows how long they're going to stay in their house. But like, if you think you're going to be in your house for 10 years, and like, I think 10 years is the mark that I like to give to a home. If I'm going to buy this house, I want to stay here for 10 years before I move on to the next. We're seeing paybacks that or less without a tax credit. So yes, solar's still very much alive against it, and that's with no utility increases. So against a utility that will continue to rip off its customers, solar's still viable.
Let's also factor in the obvious change that's occurred in the real estate market, which is nobody's selling their homes anymore. So that average time of home ownership, it's going to balloon out. So it makes it even easier for a rate of return on solar, which still could be under 10 years in a lot of cases in our modeling, to make sense. So yeah, to be clear, you don't need a tax credit to go solar. It just simply lowers the rate of return a little bit. It makes it a little more lucrative, but you don't need it.
Right.
So I don't know. You know me, I love analogies. So this is kind of more or less how I feel about because solar's, solar dead because the tax credit's gone. I feel like this is maybe you're trying to be healthy. You're trying to lose weight, right? And that's an objective that you fight your whole life. We continue, especially us, we're getting older. It's like, how do we not gain weight? How do we continue to be healthy and stay active and move, right? If it gets harder for you to exercise in the morning, if your gym membership is no longer free and you got to pay a little money for it, that's hurdles. But you still have to accomplish the goal of you're not going to stop trying to be healthy, just like you're not going to stop trying to have your energy independence. You're not going to stop caring about, I don't want to pay this huge bill. I want to find ways to fight it. So there will be more hurdles. It will be different, but you're not going to stop going after that goal. And that's truly how I feel about it. And that's real to me because this is summertime for me, so I get to work out a lot easier because my kids are in school. As soon as I go back to school, it is way harder for me to exercise in the morning before work, but I can't let that ultimately deter me. And just because a tax credit goes away, it ultimately, it's not as lucrative or easy as it was previously, but that doesn't make it not viable, right? It just means it's a little different. So
solid analogy, 7 out of 10 rating for me. It's a little bit like too real, too close to home. Your more comedic analogies are going to get a higher rating. Oh. That one's too real. I agree. I think that's a really good way to put it. And even like summertime now is the time to work out thing even resonates because the solar or electric bills are cyclical, workout periods, and now is the time to work out or focus on this subject.
Maybe the workout thing is everyone cares, New Year's resolution. So from January to February, everyone cares about working out. Maybe summer is that for solar. You only care because your bill's high, but you should be thinking about it all the time.
7.3.
I'm up.
There we go.
A little bit higher, and I got like a pizza rating going on. Yeah. But there's other factors to consider too, right? So natural things that are going to occur now that a tax credit has gone away, one of the two tax credits, pricing is naturally going to come down, right? These manufacturers that invested in this industry, that's a whole other side thing, right? I feel bad for the manufacturers that invested billions of dollars to come to the US to do domestic manufacturing, and now they feel like, whoa, we just pulled the rug out from underneath us, because some of those probably won't make it. Some of those are going to have to scale down those factories, which are built to run 24/7, right? But the point being is they're going to try to survive. And how are they going to do that? They're going to have to stay relevant. They're going to lower their prices. So some of that tax credit going away will be made up by lowering price in the industry. Other things are going to happen. it sounds like a bad word, but financial products, right? They're all products, like ways for you to finance something. There will be creative ways to finance it that don't currently exist, right? We just got to have a meeting today where we were being told there will be in the next 60 days probably creative financing that's going to be attractive for homeowners. And that could mean a lot of different things. It's not just rates and payments, it's how it's structured. It's what you could do after the first year, right? Maybe there's a lease initially that is a path to ownership, so you get back to that ownership model. There's so many different things that will come as tools that we're not aware of today.
Yeah. Real quick, going back to companies doing manufacturing here and like with subsidies, like we talked about this in the previous podcast, and it's just like I feel like I have to bitch about this a little bit. I mentioned it last time. We Americans already paid for this investment for companies in the clean energy space to manufacture stuff on U.S. soil, and then we're pulling the rug out from under them. And it just feels like the kind of, these are big businesses, but like it feels like the attacks that small businesses get, they don't get the support. Big businesses invest all this money to do this and support the American economy, and then we take away the carrot and like, oh, sorry, you're already here, like close your factory or do. So I don't even know how prices do have to go down. They have to. But how are they going to do that when they've invested in the American manufacturing space, which is more expensive? It is just straight up a fact. It's more expensive to manufacture on U.S. soil than it is overseas. So it's almost like a slap in the face for the administration of any political party to say, you have to invest in U.S. manufacturing, but we're going to tell you why you need to do that and then take away all the benefit. I don't know how that's a viable business model.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Like, so at the core of this, and we discuss this a lot, right? This is all about like controlling the size of government and taking taxes from people's earnings, and how do you spend it, right? So I think in general, a lot of people, especially Republicans, are for like, how do we shrink government? How do we not subsidize everything with taxpayer money? So when I say you can't have your cake and eat it too, you want to subsidize American manufacturing and businesses. You don't want to subsidize individual people getting benefits. But unfortunately, in the case of this, when you threw one out, you threw them both out. You're really hurting the manufacturer as well. So it's really unfortunate. I feel bad for those companies.
The baby with the bathwater. Yeah. It's terrible, and I'm really afraid of a like political battle where every 4 years we're changing direction and getting whiplash here. But we'll see how things go. Anyways, sorry about my rant.
And I mean, there's probably a bunch of other things, but the utility is the most important. New incentive programs, right? We don't know, but if I had to speculate, I'd say that especially in the state of California, they're going to come up with some state tax credit. It's existed before. It's too important to this particular economy, I think, for them to lose. There's hundreds of thousands of jobs that are forecasted to potentially be lost with this change in this industry. California is going to do something to try to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think one of their ways is to provide a state tax credit. So I don't doubt that something like that, a similar financial impact will happen. So again, a lot of this is we don't know, but that's the whole point. So we will have life in this industry. It will be a viable industry moving forward as an alternative. But you just got to kind of sit back, and we'll keep doing updates like this, and we'll let you know what the tools are. But as of right now, we just know there's going to be new tools because, well, we were given essentially no notice to turn our entire industry around 180 degrees. So
super fun.
So there's that.
Yeah.
All right, what's next? So, all right, so I mentioned PPAs and leases, right? A lot of people, especially if these are some of our customers watching or people that know us well, they're like, wait, PPAs and leases, you guys have more or less steered me away from those in the past. So
True.
What has changed? And my simple statement for this will be, we did what we believed was in our customers' best interest at that time, and we will continue to do that. And as we move into 2026, what will be in our customers' best interest will be to not stay with utility companies, and the best tool they have will be this lease or PPA or new creative hybrid product. So that's my blanket answer. We can go in more detail, but like we always do what we believe is best for our customer.
Yeah, I mean, when you cut it down, it is what's best for our customer is not to stay with the utility.
Right.
And so, as net metering has changed, systems to combat the utility have become more expensive, and in one way or another. And removing a subsidy is a way for a system to become more expensive. So it's not that what we believe is the best approach to financing a system is wrong or right, because you can still pay cash or finance a system. It's just that the rate of return is lower. And if you're going to stay in your house for a less of a period of time, maybe there are now other options to make more sense. So it's not that one was wrong or right. It's that the market has shifted,
right,
and that is making us look at different vehicles to be the most advantageous.
Right. I mean, you could make a parallel to anything, right? There's time periods where it makes no sense to rent a home. You should try to go for home ownership. And there's other times where you should 100% rent right now. It's not the time to try to buy a home. It just, things shift, right? And there's no universal, consistent answer forever.
Right.
But I want to go through PPAs and leases, and PPA is power purchase agreement. It's just a different version of a lease and how it's structured. So I don't want to get overly lost in that acronym, but it's basically meaning you don't personally own the system. A financing company puts the equipment on your roof and you get the financial benefit from it, meaning a lower payment. That's really the most simple version of it. But
instead of purchasing power from the utility, you're purchasing power from the system that makes power.
And that's the simple. So people accuse these of being too simple, right? And we, I guess, did to some degree as well. This could be represented as easy as, what do you pay per month now? Would you like to pay less? Get your power, like you said, from here versus monopoly utility company, right? What's your cost per kilowatt hour, right? It's gone up so much in the last 5 years. Why don't we lock you into a lower cost per kilowatt hour, right? Those all sound good. No maintenance, right? These have been the typical pitches, right? And they're not factually untrue. They are true. Again, anything versus the utility company looks good, but I want to go a little deeper on some other stuff. So first and foremost, this is always going to be probably your lowest payment. If your goal is I've got a $750 a month bill, which is now becoming very common, you're going to put a big dent in that. With a lease or PPA payment, you're going to drop that substantially. That is your best chance to get some financial breathing room. So that in my mind is advantage number one. The no liability to homeowner, I mean, essentially because you don't own it, it's another financial company's asset that's performing for someone, so they have to keep it intact. So therefore, yes, they will continue to fix it and it won't be on your dime, right? So that is another huge advantage. But there's some beyond that, right? Like something new, right? With batteries, that got dropped. That was another one of those curveballs, right? Hey, all of a sudden you need batteries in every job, and we've adjusted. And I actually think batteries in every job is a great thing. It's leading more towards grid independence and relying on yourself. But it does open up some stuff in the ownership model of, hey, eventually these batteries that have 10, 12, 15-year warranties, they tend to be in that range, right? At some point, that warranty expires, and if it dies, you're going to have to replace it like you would in anything that you own right outside of warranty. Guess what? In the lease and PPA, that is wrapped into their 25-year or whatever the term is, maybe 30 years or 25. They don't tend to be shorter than that. That's covered. If the battery dies 1 year outside the warranty, the financial company is going to replace it, right? It's not you as a homeowner. Benefit. So there are benefits here for sure. And even just as simple as taking the tax credit, right? That's one of the most complicated things we've had to explain over the years of who's eligible. How much can you take year one? I mean, I've literally been with my family on a vacation, getting very specific now, but at I think it was the zoo or something. And I'm on the phone instead of with my family explaining to someone why they didn't get the tax credit because they were a business owner that didn't generate any income in their business, therefore didn't have taxes, right? These are things that they're hard to explain sometimes, even though to us, we talk about it every day. It doesn't seem hard, but it is. If you go with lease or PPA, you're not worrying about a tax credit. They are taking it and they're getting the maximum version of it. They're doing every single loophole they can, and they're extending the benefit of that in the form of a lower payment to you. So again, simplicity, not being liable, not having to worry about warranties expiring and product replacement. These are real advantages. And for a lot of people, even in California today, to be honest, the stats show that more people do lease or PPAs than loans or cash, right? That's just a fact. So this isn't like we're reinventing the wheel. It's more like we're now just, as the industry moves on and tax credits have changed, we're more or less now highlighting, yeah, there was a lot of advantages in this product. And being now that the other one's not available, this one has evolved a lot, and it is very useful as a tool.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the model. I think that it's a valuable approach, and I think that it is simple to homeowners. A lease or PPA is complicated on the back end. There's a lot of things happening, but other people are taking care of it. The warranty and the federal tax credit and worrying about if the system is working appropriately and all that stuff. Those are all considerations that if you own the system, that's your problem. If you don't own the system, you've got a lease or PPA, it's somebody else's problem. So it is simplified, and I think that's a good thing as long as your rep is explaining what is or is not your responsibility. And maybe that's what's missing.
Yeah, so we're going to put a pin in that whole, if it's being explained properly, what still matters in this equation, right? So there is some devils in the detail of simplicity where if this just becomes, this is your payment now, this is what your payment could be, this is your rate of power, here's your rate of power could be. If that's the whole conversation, you haven't had the whole conversation. So I do want to put a pin in that. I will circle back pretty soon to that.
Good.
So probably like so soon, I should just say it now, but for the sake of, I've started this. So I want to transition into what should homeowners do, right? Like right now, it's July of 2025. What should homeowners do at this exact moment? And there's one really obvious thing, right? If you want to get a system where you want to take the tax credit, you want cash or loan, this is the time to do it, right? These systems need to be installed in 2025. Every installer's calendar is filling up very quickly. You should be doing this immediately.
Yeah.
If
like
you got
right now.
Right. Like stop watching the podcast and
yeah, not in 30 days or 60 days, right now.
Yeah. And I would say also if you have an existing system, right, this would also be your time to call and say, hey, I've been holding off on this. I've got a $2,000 true up. Can I add panels now before the deadline? Yes. This is what you should absolutely do first.
Yep.
Second, I would say if you're somebody that doesn't have solar, you're watching, and this is all confusing, the main takeaway should be, yes, there's changes. Don't continue to pay a super high utility bill in 2026 if you don't have solar. Call. There are options, and honestly, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised at how much money you're going to save. Yep. There is still a solar industry in 2026.
Yep.
Arguably for this space, it is still going to operate very much the same, right? For those PPA and lease models, it's not going to change dramatically. Like those numbers will look very similar, and there's no cliff or dramatic change in the value of those systems.
Yep.
So that would probably be my, what to do right now. I would not continue to, when we have customers or potential customers we talk to, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to see. And we try to tell them every couple years, it's just going to get worse because the utility company continues to do this. They will make you pay more money. They will shut your power off more, and they're going to make it harder for you to become independent. They want you so bad as a customer for life. Stop doing that. Make it harder for them and make your own power, or at least have an asset that's producing the power for you. Whether you own it or not is the less relevant part, as it is that you're not exposed to needing them, and whatever they feel like doing with pricing, that is the homework to do right now.
What's the average increase percentage year over year?
We used to say 5%, but now it's ballooned closer to 10%.
Yeah,
like
I want to say 7-8%.
Yeah, it's bad, and it's getting worse, and not to mention the power outages, right? Like it's not just price; they can shut your power off when you want. Yeah. Part of the advantage of having batteries in the ecosystem now is you can have backup power, right? That's part of the it's common.
Yep.
More than 50% have backup potential in some form, I think, on our brand new projects that we're currently selling.
I think newer systems, it's greater than that. Like 70-80% of projects are going to have backup based on just the newer technology.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, going back to the pin. So, but in all that, I want to say, great, solar still has life after the end of 2025. And there's going to be this simplistic way of, if you got to pick utility company or solar alternative, solar alternative makes sense. That does not mean to stop the conversation at the very simple, I'm saving money. Installer matters. And this is part of the industry that's really bothered me when it comes to this space. It's this race for how do I create the cheapest payment possible, right? And there's no magic bullet for doing this. How do you make the cheapest price possible to the end user? It's generally by cutting corners, right? So in the case of solar, it might be cheap materials. It might be cheap install labor. It might be the fact that they don't have a good long-term plan. And just because you don't own it, just because it's a lease system, that is not a good enough reason to say, meh, I got a low enough payment. I don't care about everything else. Because I could tell you right now, from experience of all the stuff that comes to our service department, read some reviews on some companies that have been doing leases and PPAs a long time. They generally don't do a good job of servicing customers.
Right.
So I can promise you this, New Day Solar entering this space, and not just us, companies like us that think like us, that have been in the space but have chosen maybe cash or loan because we thought it was the customer's best interest. When we move into this new space now, we are going to still be thinking customer-centric, customer experience. How do we take care of them? This isn't a set it and forget it. We're not going to lose your number. Like, we're going to answer your phone when you call. Like. Don't just pick the cheapest payment. When's the last time you did that and it made sense or worked out for you?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, we're a loan centric company, but at the heart of it, it's customer service centric. And when you have companies that can hide behind sales dealers or something like that, which is common in the lease or PPA space, it's harder to figure out who to call or who to even hold responsible for an issue with your installation. When you have a one-stop shop type of installer with a good reputation like New Day Solar, it's pretty easy to see a clearer path to success, a clearer, better installation, better experience, that's the word, a better experience. And I think that's what people should be focusing on.
I'm personally excited because for the first time, we're not used to being like, hey, you go at New Day, you absolutely get probably the cheapest form of energy, right? Like the cheapest payment possible. Because I think people that go with us generally appreciate they're a quality installer. They're going to be in business for, now we're going on, we're 14th year of being in business, right? So this stuff matters. I look forward to translating that into this space where now we will be offering probably max savings per month to our installers or to our customers, but we will provide that premium installer experience as well. You don't need to settle for the installation and service and follow-through experience just to get the lower payment. Now you got both. That's what we're going for. That's our goal. We're not going to change who we are. We're not going to lower our bar to the standard of everyone else. We will create a new bar again. And again, it's just constant reinventing yourself in this space. It's a battle against utilities. It's a battle against politicians. It's a battle against everyone. And we will continue to fight for the one person that matters, which is the customers, the homeowners. Like that's what this is about. So
yeah. Good.
I'm excited. I'm more excited than I am afraid, I think, at this point, right? There were some days where we had to break this down and figure out what it all meant. But this industry will move on, and we will continue to fight the fight against the common enemy, which is the utility company.
Cool. I'm excited too.
So I guess that's all we got. And hopefully this was helpful for people to kind of hear the update, understand it's not doomsday, understand that things evolve, and sometimes what in the past wasn't the best tool then becomes the best tool. And just keep in mind all along, do not settle to the utility company. Do not continue. What was the previous owners of New Day's tagline? Your mother-in-law? Don't continue to be on the lifelong Edison plan or whatever utility company is. And it holds true.
Yeah.
There is no reason to go through that kind of pain.
Absolutely.
So, as usual, thanks for joining us for another episode of SpeakEasy with Eric and Cory, and we'll see you next time.